Leslie Meredith with Breakbulk Events and Media. We have just finished a session here in Dubai on financing, and I have Chris Peters with Tristar here with me in the studio to give us a wrap-up of that session. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So great to see you. So tell me the key takeaways from your point of view from your session.
Key takeaways are that green financing and banks that are using the Poseidon principles are going to be coming more to the front, and with the new regulations coming in for the industry next year 2023 and again 2030 leading out to 2050. One of the points that I put out there was that it's not a case of if you will have to take green financing. I think it's a case of if you don't go green, you may not get financing in the future. And I think that's something that the industry needs to be prepared for.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, many of the financial institutions have signed up to something called the Poseidon Principles, which is about green lending. So from the whole supply chain, so for Breakbulk it will be how you see that companies like IKEA and Amazon on the liner side, they're asking, what are you doing with your ships, to the big liner companies? And they're changing the fuel from conventional fuel to lower carbon fuels. And then for non-liner business, such as the oil business and the traditional dry bulk in grains and iron ore, coal, these ships are having to adapt how they operate and reduce their emissions. So there's new technologies out there. It already exists. You have methanol, you have ammonia, you have hydrogen, all of these things that are much greener than conventional fuel. That technology exists. But the question is, when will it come to the marketplace and how do we get there? So there's a big technology drive which needs to be interlinked with finance and business, and all of the industry needs to line up together.
And how many new builds do you think we're looking at?
Well, there are approximately 60,000 vessels above 5,000 gross tons in the world today, of all different types. And I would say that by 2050, you will see that all 60,000 will have to be replaced with new technology.
Is that right? That's amazing.
I think that that's the way the world is headed. So yes, if you want to move to zero carbon by 2050, then the entire fleet over the next 30 years will need to be changed.
Okay, so is the market prepared for that? Do you think it has the resources to deliver?
Not yet. No, I don't. I think the technology exists and everyone is talking about it. People are lining up, but I think that a lot more needs to be done in the industry. People are working on it. There's a lot of people working on it, but it's not there yet. Very few vessels are dual fuel at this point in time.
Do you think getting the financing will be very competitive?
No. No, I've said this before. I think that the green financing is not going to be more competitive for the people going for it because they're compliant. I think people that don't go green just won't get financing.
Okay, that's pretty clear cut. You were telling me that most of your fleet are oil and chemical tankers. Does that have the same impact on the ships you take care of?
Yeah, it's the same for every vessel type. Every vessel over 4,000 deadweight tons has to comply with the new regulations. So that's pretty much the entire global fleet, only smaller coastal vessels. But even the smaller coastal vessels, where they're operating in places like Europe, America, then they're already being made compliant. In fact, they're probably way ahead of the game. On coastal shipping, there's many battery operated, you have shore power that can be used and things like that. So the technology is a lot easier to implement on coastal trading than it is for ocean-going ships.
Interesting. All right. So, what do you see for the whole shipping market? Say, let's go within 10 years. What changes will we see?
I think you'll see a lot more dual-fuel ready ships, which means that the ships are built so that they can actually convert to one of the new fuels when it comes along. and when the supply chain's there. Because the biggest challenge you have now, LNG is fully available in most places, but even here in the Middle East, there's not one bunker supply ship for LNG. That still doesn't exist here. There's talk, and there are many companies looking at it, but it's still not here. So for traditional shipping, if you're going from, say, East Africa to here, then there's just nowhere to bunker your ship. It's the liner trade, which we're not in, but if you're the liner trade going from Asia to here to Europe to America, then yes, you have bunkering points in Singapore, in Rotterdam, in Houston, and you can do that. But if you're trading smaller ships, then that infrastructure needs to be brought in. And I believe that infrastructure for LNG will be there by 2030. And then for the other technologies, hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, that are all technologically capable of being used today, but there is no infrastructure around the world to actually supply it. So I think we will see that infrastructure starting to develop.
All right, well, we've got a real taste of realism there from you, and I think it will be of great interest to our viewers. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.